A plaque at Northeastern Illinois University honors Abraham Lincoln. If you believe what is written on this plaque, then how long until you believe this? If you are a useful idiot and don't understand the error on the plaque, let us properly educate you. Abraham Lincoln was not a Democrat. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He was the Republican president who freed the slaves. Everyone knows Lincoln ended slavery. Now the Democrats are laying claim to his achievement through gerbil tactics. Democrats are at it again, incapable of rational thought, comprehension, honesty, and acceptance of reality. Democrats have continued their historical revisionism. It's not like Democrats are smart enough to think of this on their own. So, where do they get these ideas to lie? If you were to steal a playbook on how to lie to people and control the masses, who would you go to for the playbooks? Saul Alinsky and Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels was Adolf Hitler's propaganda minister in Nazi Germany. He said, "If you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it's true." Saul Alinsky was a Marxist who wrote Rules for Radicals. Obama and Hillary Clinton both follow his methods. Hillary actually wrote her college thesis on Alinsky. You people that follow and defend Democrats are nothing more than useful idiots. Democrats need useful idiots to believe their lies. They need useful idiots to unknowingly follow their agenda. The sad thing for the useful idiot is that you are the first ones to be punished once the system is in place.
I am deeply honored, moved and touched by the warmth of our children, these beautiful little faces, all who come here open and ready and unburdened by all of our hurts and pains from the past. They come fresh to this world, and we owe them the best that we can provide them as a country. And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation to provide the kind of future that we all want desperately for our children. And he is the man to do it. We're going to have to change our history. We're going to have to change our history. We're going to have to change our history.
MSNBC's Chris Hayes and his news organization tried to rewrite history on Tuesday, describing the late segregationist Governor George Wallace of Alabama as a Republican. The Democrats have control over the Department of Education and what is taught to your children. They are trying to revise history and blame others for what they are responsible, not only in public schools, but they are lying right to your face on national television.
With this man, former Alabama Governor George Wallace, who 50 years ago today made his infamous stand in the schoolhouse door, a principled stand on behalf of evil. In defiance of the United States Justice Department, Governor George Wallace stood outside the University of Alabama, personally blocking 2 black students from enrolling there.
I stand here today as governor of this sovereign state and refuse to willingly submit to the illegal usurpation of power by the central government.
We're going to have
Today,
to change
50
our
years later, when we
history.
look back on that moment on June 11th, 1963, we can tell very clearly the heroes from the villains. George Wallace was obviously the villain in this story, and Vivian Malone and James Hood, the 2 students who were blocked by George Wallace from registering that day, were heroes. Along with the rest of the civil rights movement, folks like Martin Luther King Jr., the people who were fighting for integration, they're the heroes, they're the good guys.
A segregationist is a person that wants to keep the races separate, coloreds separate from whites, separate drinking fountains, separate schools, etc. All the quote-unquote no coloreds allowed history came from the Democrats. Governor George Wallace was a Democrat, not a Republican. Wallace was a Democrat and a proud segregationist. Desegregation is the act of ending segregation, ending the separation of races, the bringing together of people of different races. Here is the truth about Wallace. In a vain attempt to halt desegregation by the enrollment of black students Vivian Malone and James Hood, He stood in front of Foster Auditorium at the University of Alabama on June 11, 1963. This became known as the Stand in the Schoolhouse Door, after being confronted by federal marshals, Deputy Attorney General Nicholas Katzenbach, and the Alabama Army National Guard. Wallace stepped aside. In September 1963, Wallace again attempted to stop 4 black students from enrolling in 4 separate elementary schools in Huntsville. After intervention by a federal court in Birmingham, the 4 children were allowed to enter on September 9, becoming the first to integrate a primary or secondary school in Alabama. Wallace desperately wanted to preserve segregation. Let's step back in time to another Democrat in history, Orville Faubus. He is best known for his 1957 stand against the desegregation of the Little Rock School District during the Little Rock crisis, in which he defied a unanimous decision of the United States Supreme Court by ordering the Arkansas National Guard to stop African American students from attending Little Rock Central High School. Faubus had a showdown with Republican President Dwight Eisenhower. In 1957, President Dwight Eisenhower, a Republican, deployed the 82nd Airborne Division to desegregate the Little Rock, Arkansas, schools over the resistance of Democrat Governor Orville Faubus. Eisenhower then sent elements of the 101st Airborne Division to Arkansas to protect the black students, known as the Little Rock Nine, and enforce the federal court order. In retaliation, Faubus shut down Little Rock high schools for the 1958-1959 school years. This is often referred to as the lost year in Little Rock. Orville Faubus, the Democrat governor of Arkansas, was also a political mentor of Bill Clinton. So let's get the story straight. Try the truth for once in your life. Democrats never have and never will do anything for black people. They have a long history of fighting to keep you slaves. They have a long history of funding your abortion. They have a long history of keeping you on welfare in the name of looking out for you, the little guy. The history of the Republican Party is one that stands for black people. The Republicans freed the slaves. The Republicans passed the Civil Rights Acts. The Republicans forced the end of segregation. Black people need to stop the battered wife syndrome and leave the Democratic Party.
We're going to have to change our history. We're going to have to change our history. We're going to have to change our history.